Okay, so how many people have heard of the island Sardinia? It's not about sardines, okay? It's in the Mediterranean near Italy. And in Sardinia, it's one of the what we call blue areas for longevity. And it's one of the few areas where the men live as long as the women. Huh, why is that? Are they eating sardine? I mean, what are they doing, right? And if we look at it a little closely, we see there's a high degree of socialization. And the men apparently are involved with the socialization. Generally speaking, women are way more socially connected than men. And that may be, as you're going to see in a moment, why women tend to live longer, or at least a big factor of why women tend to live longer. So the suspicion is on Sardinia, the men are more involved socially, so they have the same length of life. That's pretty interesting. And it's long life. We're talking a blue area means people living more than 100, a high percentage. So whatever, their society is about social engagement. Note the word social engagement, because what we're looking at in our society is just the opposite. That's why I'm actually bringing it up. Okay. And we are not talking socialization over the computer. We are talking about face-to-face. Now, when I mean face-to-face, touch. You touch hands, oxytocin gets expressed. Oxytocin is a well-being relationship hormone. Okay, obviously in sex, we have it, but I'm talking about high-fiving. You will have an increase in oxytocin. And it increases the dopamine and as well, which is the neurotransmitter for well-being, okay, and longevity. So we got the oxytocin dopamine thing. And in our world, amazingly enough, a quarter of the population has no one to talk to. That's huge. I just want to make that point of how huge that is that, and we're all in lockdown. I'm not in lockdown, but we're in isolation. So I'm reading this article, and what they have discovered in a variety of different studies, okay, is socialization is connected with longevity. Okay, exercise is, nutrition is, but it may be that socialization may be the most important thing. And I think that's the key concept. We know that married couples live longer, and we know that, well, that's the key thing. We know married couples live longer for the point I'm wanting to make. And it is about this oxytocin stuff, okay, which people mostly associate with sexuality. The oxytocin increases and people feel more turned on. That's true, but we're talking at a much bigger level, okay? We're talking about social interaction, face to face, not computer to computer. There's an energy that gets transmitted. That just kind of get that idea. So when you have a quarter of the population that has no one to talk to, what does that tell us? Well, it's not very healthy. So now we're going to go on a little bit in understanding that in terms of longevity, okay, that the most common thing for longevity is relationship. We often see, I see some of the couples that are older couples, and one dies often within a year, unless they have a network, the other one dies because of how important that is. Now, let's get specific, because it does help to be a little specific. Everybody wants details. So there's a study led by Nicole Valtortea in the British Medical Journal, which is pretty reasonable. And they found that those who had poor social connections, like in the United States is what we're talking about, had 29% increased risk of heart disease. And I have other studies where it's up to 50%, okay? Well, with depression as well. and a 32% increased risk of stroke. 29% increased heart disease, 32% stroke. That's pretty important. And what they also found in the study is even the perception of loneliness was associated. In other words, you may have social people, but you may feel alone. Okay. Now, what's connected with socialization? We have decreased blood pressure. That's pretty interesting. Increased pain tolerance and improved immunity. And I think the immunity is one of the big things that gets improved with the whole thing. And decreased incidence of the common cold. In other words, that includes the coronaviruses, obviously. Common cold is a coronavirus. For some of the common colds are coronavirus. Okay. Now, another study by Holt, Lundstad, Smith at Brigham Young showed that decreased social connections result in a 50% increased risk of early death. And that's really what I was referring to with the 50. Increased risk, 50% of an early death, okay? Equal to roughly smoking 15 cigarettes a day or obesity, okay? So that's a pretty strong statement here. And I'll go further. Those who have regular social contact show a decrease in stress, anxiety, and depression. That may be more obvious in a certain way. But what they're talking about is not about technology. We're talking about face-to-face contact, including some level of touching. How does that fit with the 6 feet distancing? You're not supposed to touch anybody for something that I think we're hearing out there isn't really any more than a flu or maybe less. We don't really know, but we're shutting down ourselves. We're not just shutting down society. We're locking down ourselves. And people in isolation do not live as long, and they have significant brain development deterioration in the brain size. And remember, at any age, your brain is growing. So let's keep that in mind. So we know the absolute horrors of isolation. And, when people are put actually in a prison in isolation, there is a degeneration after 15 days. Their brain literally degenerates and they get out of balance. So people are in forced lockdown. That's what's going on. So for something that isn't really a problem, we're doing all these things that make no difference. Research, and I don't want to get into COVID so much because that's not the point. Research shows masks don't make a difference, but that creates social distancing. 6 feet doesn't make any difference. And this is stuff out of the CDC, okay? So I kind of trust that a little bit. Not that we can trust anything totally, but we do know that societies have lockdown versus those that haven't. The risk of disease is not significantly more in the long run. Sweden is a little bit more, but it's not statistically significant. People try to blow it up because they're doing something different, and people are happier and so forth. But I don't want to talk about Sweden too much. The American Geriatric Society that confirmed regular and frequent contact with friends and family leads to a lower incidence of depression in the elderly. So what are we doing? We're isolating these people in old age homes. Terrible thing to do. I mean, with Shanti's mom, we took care of her for 11 years. I mean, she left her body at 93. Had a really good connection with her. But the point is, she didn't go to nursing home. We took care of her. And I think she lived a lot longer. I think she would have died within a few years if we didn't take her from New Zealand to US to be with us. I know that would be the case, as she said too. So I'm saying socialization makes a difference. And let's look at people's lifestyle. Are we just going to dump them away with when they're send them off to nursing home? No, we're going to take care of them. And that makes a huge difference in their mental and physical health. Okay. So we also know that people at any age, even people in their hundreds, literally, if they're healthy, they're going to have the same rate or slightly higher rate of getting infected with the flu or with COVID. So it's like, well, that is a significant statement. So other studies have shown that socializing not only improves memory, but even may protect against Alzheimer's. And I've read enough studies to say, yeah, I think for sure. Because when you're alone, your brain is degenerating. So these are really what I'm going to say, super important things. So there's a study done at Harvard, even JFK, no, he didn't exactly have a longevity because he got assassinated, is that they showed 80-year study, okay, very important, 80-year study. They showed that, I'm going to quote, close relationships more than money or fame are what keep people happy throughout their lives. So again, we are social beings. It is very serious to disrupt the social contract. That's what's going on today. Now, I am not doing this because of the COVID thing. I studied this stuff. This is of interest to me. And we are doing a series about sacred relations, probably be for the next 3 months. So the point I'm making is this is just plain important without politics to it, although I had a little politics in my discussion. So the professor, Robert Waldinger, told the Harvard Gazette, taking care of your body is important, but tending to your relationships, which I think is pretty cool, is a form of self-care. So let's just think about it. So, and what he's basically saying is loneliness, the 80-year study says loneliness kills. Think about that. Okay. Dr. George Valiant, who did some brilliant work on alcoholism, which I've quoted a variety of times, actually took over the Harvard study. And basically, he says the key to healthy aging is relationship. So you're hearing from me, nutrition is important, prevention, different things, relationship. Okay. Now, other studies have shown that the ARP is for people over 50 or something like that. I don't actually get the magazine. I used to, but I canceled. I didn't like their politics. But there's a good other one they call AMAC, but that's a different story. By drawing attention to how isolation can harm both physical and brain health, we hope to empower and inspire older people to take steps themselves to increase the number and quality of their social contacts. It's like, it's all over the place, okay? And probably not everybody's heard of it, but I'm making a point. It's a big deal, okay? And so obviously the article talks about the problems of social distancing and isolation and so forth. Now, in the United States, just to get perspective, and I'm not talking about, again, COVID, I'm just talking about in general, the number of people who say they have no close friends has nearly tripled since 1985. Now, I was reading some other research, which I think is pretty important. And that research says that we only need 2 or 3 close friends, is what that research shows. And that's it. So it's enough to have your primary relationship if you're in a couple, and we do know married people live longer, but we're also talking about several close friends. And close friends really means intimate sharing, support over the years. So the research is really supporting that idea of the importance of close friends, including obviously your primary relationship. So I just kind of making the point there, and tripled since 1985. How did that? What's going on here? Because that's all contributing to the degeneration. And so this social distancing isolation is really not good for people, okay? Really not good. And people aren't can't touch, but none of it's true, okay? Let's get clear. None of it has been proven to be true. It's all fiction that they made up, and a hypothesis that they made up. Not unreasonable, but really not the truth about the virus and how it's transmitted. What's the most important thing? Be healthy, build your immune system. That's it. It's a no-brainer. Vitamin D, zinc, so forth. Okay, here's what they're saying. We are designed to be social beings. Obviously, if we disrupt that, we cause a lot of problems. So, and this is a quote, but I already said it. That's why social isolation has long been used as a form of torture, okay, for prisoners of war. It's that powerful. And I told you, if they're really isolated for up to 15 days, there is significant psychological damage going on. So human contact is just part of life. We really are designed that way. And we have a sense of belonging, connection, compassion, being a full human being. That's kind of that is what we're talking about. So someone said, let's not make the cure. Not that it's even a cure, because it isn't. Let's not make the cure worse than the disease. And right now, I can tell you the cure is worse than the disease. The rate of suicide, alcoholism, drug use is skyrocketing. This is not an accident. It's totally predictable. So, what's the message? Relationships are important. Nurture your relationships. Value your relationships. As we move into sacred relationships, give that more attention as well. Okay? It is really important. You need a few friends. That's what we're talking about. Not a whole lot, but it does make a difference. So I'm going to leave it like that, and now we'll have time for questions. But may everybody be blessed that we really get it and value it and stop letting ourselves be put in literally a COVID prison or any kind of prison that psychological in this manner. We are social beings. Let's honor that and do the best we can. We try to do this with the computer. Internet is not the same as hand to hand, fist to fist. Pretty important thing to do. So let's keep the human interaction going. Blessings to everyone. Shalom, shalom, shalom. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om Takyasa. Amen. So we have questions. Yoshua has the questions. I have them somewhere, but I don't want to kind of lose my track. So can we?
Yeah. So the first question is an individual asking your opinion on vasectomies.
Vasectomies? I'm not exactly well expert in vasectomies, but I will say that there is a big downside. And the big downside is, obviously for men, is that they tend to get a lot more autoimmune disorders because somehow with the vasectomy and the semen, whatever, there's a much higher rate of autoimmune disorders following vasectomies. Also, obviously, it's a disruption of the second chakra. So we are energetically disrupting our chakra system. And that is another problem. Now, these are more subtle, but it's important. Now, obviously, autoimmune, that's not subtle. There is a risk. I don't remember exactly the percentage. I read this about 20 years ago, so I don't remember. But definitely, there is a significant risk of developing autoimmune, and then a more subtle risk of the second chakra. Obviously, this fits into this because sexuality is part of the human connection. And it does increase oxytocin and so forth. Okay. Other question.
Yeah, second question was, magnesium, individual where they lived, a lot of magnesium in the water, and asking.
Yeah, it's mineralized magnesium. It's not so available. It's better than nothing,
Right.
but it's not the same as an extra magnesium. It goes right into your system. It's much harder to pull it out of the water. And the other problem is hard water then tends to build up minerals in the arteries.
So they're asking how to rebalance that dynamic in the body.
Well, I would go to distilled water, so it's more likely to pull this is just an idea. I don't have research on this. It's more likely to pull the minerals out of the arteries, and then go to natural things, or what we use is like extra magnesium. It goes right into the cells. It's an activated energetic magnesium that's programmed to the cells, doesn't get stuck in the outer system. But I would short of chelation, which I'm not necessarily recommending, but a Detox Plus is a little bit of a chelator that we use. Really distilled water for a while may be the safest way to pull the mineralized, chalk out of your arteries. I'm going to just make a note that one of the things that we looked at in terms of Israel is that it's very social, and they do have an increased longevity. And I vaguely remember research showing that the increased socialization was connected again with the increased longevity that we see in Israel. Israel's super social as a society. I don't know how it compares with Sardinia, but it's highly social.
Okay, go ahead, Doug.
Hello,
Hi,
Doug.
Dr. Cousens.
Hi, Doug. Nice to hear you.
I wanted to ask you about if you're familiar with Lynn McTaggart's work on the field. And her,
It blurred, but I am familiar with Taggart's work, yes. I mean, it's older work, okay, but I am familiar with it. What's your question?
you are familiar?
Yes, I mean, I'm familiar with
I'm having trouble on the audio a little bit.
Yeah, but the answer is yes, I'm familiar.
There's a lot of garbling.
I am familiar. What's the question?
Okay, what's your comments on her work?
That's too general a question. That's too general a question. Make it more specific.
Well, she studies the energy fields.
Yes.
And I just I wondered how you feel about these energy fields and her interpretation of them.
I think it's pretty good.
In other words,
my answer is
I
think it's pretty good. I think she's pretty good. So I won't tell you I absolutely stand behind it, but I think it's pretty good. Okay, any other questions?
I don't have any questions that anyone has written in. If anyone in the Zoom room would like to raise their hand and ask a question, we can unmute you. And we don't have any hands at this time.
So I think what we're talking about here, and I want to make this very, very clear. We have AI, we have this kind of thing where they're really separating people apart. I want you to understand this is not an accident. I'm giving you research that's a little current, but not that current, of the importance of the human interaction. We are not robots. And we are made in the image of God. We're made to connect. We're made to elevate each other. We're meant to bring people to a higher level of consciousness. And part of it has to do with the interaction. Okay. Now, obviously, I do support the 6 foundations, obviously, and this, and we have service and charity, but obviously we have meditation. But there's a balance of the inner life, but the social life. When I talk about that in the sevenfold piece, is important. We need to honor the importance of family and social life. And if you kind of look at the trends in our society, which again, I do not want to call an accident, they're away from honoring relationship. They're away from honoring marriage. In fact, there's an effort to break down the family and to move us into being more like robots. Well, we aren't, but it's very detrimental to us. That's the point I'm making. And again, this is not really new information. I'm trying to put it in the context of a society, context of the importance of socialization. I will also tell you in terms of depression, in different studies they've done that even if you're going to a church group, okay, you're going to have half the amount of depression. That's how significant it is. So we are social beings. We are the spark of God, activating ourselves as the spark of God as a collective as well as individuals. We don't separate. So there's a play between the collective and the individual where the right balance needs to be made. Okay, the Torah actually makes a big effort to create that right balance, but it's not controlled by the society where there's nothing to the individual, or it's not all just do your own thing. There is an interface, and that interface is a source of a great spiritual growth if we can kind of get it in the right order of things. And that's why relationships and friendships are very important. So let's start honoring ourselves that way and seeing the face of God in every person. Okay, so that's my little, I'm going to say, longevity pep talk here. Okay. And again, Monday to Friday, you're going to be getting a just snippet. And it comes out of my book. So I have all these quotes about relationship and sacred relationship, because I think it's time to reactivate that consciousness in the world to uplift humanity. Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, we have a few, but they're not related specifically to this topic.
Well, I think we've kind of done our time. I think it's time to move into meditation, because it's easy for me to talk about everything, right? So, and I get very enthusiastic because of all that, but I want to stay on topic here, on focus. So now we're going to talk about meditation. So the key to meditation, sitting comfortably, focusing on the name of God, which here is Yod and then breath, Hey and now breath, Wah and then breath, Hey and now breath. Okay, and so it's Yod, Hey, Wah, Hey. So Yod from the base to the heart, and then Hey out to the heart. Wah from the base to the third eye, or what we call dot, D-A-A-T, and then out to the heart. And that is merging the heart and mind, which in a way is what I'm talking about. So, or what I call the heavens and earth. So how do we bring the heavens down to the earth? How do we make everything we touch on the earth plane holy? That's key. So it presents us with creating the holiness. Now we'll go a little further because I'm talking about this now. The Yod and the Hey are the inner male and female, becoming unified. The Wa and the Hey are the outer male and female. So it is also, this is about relationships and sanctifying relationships. Now, just a little new understanding. So let's, again, look at the importance of sanctifying relationships. And it isn't just between men and women. Obviously, it's women and women and men and men. You know, who are your friends? Well, you don't have to be in a sexual relationship to be a friend with somebody. So it's about friendship as well. So this is about friendship as well as sacred, which can be sacred relationship if we take it to a more refined level. Okay, very good. So we repeat this until our mind is quiet, and then we're in meditation. The final piece to it is Shaktipat Haniha meditation. So I'm going to dance and sing and kind of open up the energy. Hope you dance with me. I'm going to dance for 3 minutes. Then we're going to go into meditation, and you'll have the Shaktipat meditation. So I'll be looking at you. The energy's coming through my eyes, cosmically coming through, and part of my soul. Really, Shaktipat is a relationship. Okay, that's there. It's a mystical relationship, mystical marriage, actually. And then we're also looking at awakening the Kundalini and also burning karma. And along the way, I'm burning some of the karma too with the Shaktipat for you. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to dance 3 minutes, and we'll come back, Shaktipat, and then we'll meditate for 15 minutes. There we are. So I'm just going to change. I just have to move this into the other room. We have a pretty clever setup, thanks to Yehoshua, who does a great job here. So I'll be there in 1 second. 1 more second.
This is a world makeover. Mashiach will come take over. You ain't gotta be me or see what I see. All you gotta do is take a look forward. Lift up your eye to the sky. Spread out your hands. Say thank you, smile. Get them up, put them up, leave them up. Ha ha. Yep, pump up the volume every day. Stand in place. Heart racing, no words to say. Pressure building, trying to hold my face. Mind drifting like not today. Wake up from everything. Break out your shell and scream. Hashem, you're the king. Hashem, you're the king. Hashem Melech, Hashem Malach, Hashem Imloch, Leolam Va'ed. Hashem Melech, Hashem Malach, Hashem Imloch. Hashem Melech, Hashem Malach, Hashem Imloch, Leolam Va'ed. Hashem Melech, Malach, Hashem Imloch, Leolam Va'ed. I feel the cold in the rain. I wanna get up and leave it. Everything's always the same. I wanna get up and leave. Now we're standing here and the night's so clear, like the shine upon your crown. Yeah, we're up so high in the midnight sky, and we'll never come back down. Hashem Melech, Hashem Malach, our Father, King David's rock, your honor. We give Allah the stronger, we clean you drop. The blessing, the bracha, success, hatzlacha. The world is yours, you offer it to whomever calls you. Hashem Melech, Hashem Malach, Hashem Imloch, Leolam Va'ed. Hashem Melech, Malach, Hashem Imloch, Leolam Va'ed. Hashem Melech, Hashem Malach, Hashem Imloch, Leolam Va'ed. Hashem Melech, Malach, Hashem Imloch, Leolam Va'ed. Yeah. Wake up, my friend, we gone. We praising Hashem with all of our soul. The Klippa is fighting, we know. We raging a war, we won't let him go.
I love dancing. Okay, here we go. I love the dance. It's a way of connecting to the joy and love of God. It's one of my favorite things. Here we go. So just kind of focus as you look to my eyes and let the cosmic energy come down. Okay. Okay, so we'll meditate now for 15 minutes. Just go into meditation, yoda and then breath, and out breath, yoda and then breath, and out breath. Real simple. Okay. Okay. Slowly come out of meditation. We'll have a touch of sharing if people want, just a touch. Any sharing that people want with the meditation.
Anyone here in the Zoom room, you can,
Zoom in.
yeah, just raise your hands, and I'll unmute you.
Okay, so I'm going to make a few announcements before we end, just to be clear. So in October, we have a whole sequence. It's not the 21-day program, but we are going to have, and we're not going to be treating necessarily diabetes, but we are going to have the meditation intensive, like mid-October. It's a Friday night, Saturday, Sunday. Then we go Monday into the fasting retreat, spiritual fasting retreat, which went very well for people before. And then 3 days of 0 point. So it's a really special event. It ends on the, I think, yours, I think we said the 29th, 28th. I leave on the 29th. So just go to treeoflife.mn, moneynetworks.co, and all the information, or just go to drcousens.com. So you're all invited, and obviously you're invited to next Thursday as this unfolds, and then every morning, 9 o'clock Arizona time, 9 a.m., 10-minute meditation, Shaktipat meditation, and then a little time of discussion. And as I said, we're focusing more on sacred relations and the dynamics of relationship. Okay, so if there's no...
We
go
do have
ahead.
sharing from Doug here.
Yes, Doug.
All the energy in my body went to my head during this meditation. Just came right up my neck and right into my head.
So that's the Kundalini. So it's kind of moving up, and you'll feel more in the crown chakra and the third eye. That's pretty common, definite sign of the Kundalini moving.
Okay. Thank you.
Great, Doug. Great. Very good. Okay. And so until next Thursday, but also until tomorrow morning at 9, we're there. We want to support you, making it as tangible as possible. And may everyone be blessed with ever expanding consciousness, love, and efficacy in relationship. Shalom, shalom, shalom. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om and Takyo Asin. Aho.